This is Good Morning Kenya. Welcome, and it is always a pleasure to have you start off the day with us. Today is the 29th of January 2025, almost coming to a close of the first month of the year. Today being a Wednesday, we have a lot in store for you. We actually have a cocktail of happenings right here on the show. Today we'll be having politics, and then aside from politics, we'll also be having women at the forefront. And our woman at the forefront today goes by the name of Prophet Ruth Boyce, and she is the CEO Last Call Ministries. She is a lady who is doing great things in her community, in the community she lives in. She has programs that are supporting widows as well as orphans, and she'll be here as our woman at the forefront just to get to talk to us about how she does what she does. And then we'll also be having Mr. Johnson Ondisho, and Mr. Johnson Ondisho is KCB Bank Kenya head of digital channels. He'll be here to talk to us about multi-currency card. You want to stay tuned for that conversation. I am not alone in studio. Mike Megwe is here as well as Marie Yambo. But let us begin with Mike. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Vivian. How are you doing?
Good. I'm great.
I'm also
doing very well.
Yes. I'm also great, and welcome to the program. For you who is watching KBC Channel 1, as usual, on Wednesday, we have a buffet of everything that is happening in the country, including the war on graft, now that the EACC is targeting more than 26 counties in its efforts to curb corruption in the country. And also yesterday, the femicide task force was sworn in, and the idea is to strengthen Kenya's efforts in tackling femicide. As that is happening, FKE also has raised a red flag when it comes to matters concerning the reading of the pay slip of workers in Kenya. But that report, which was released by FKE, has been refuted or has been rebutted by KOTU Secretary General, that is Francis Atwoli. And as that is happening, even when it comes to the political front, the happenings is that various political fronts are shopping for coalitions. So what does that mean? And if you look at coalitions that have ruled this country in the last 20 or so years, none of those coalitions start as one but end differently. What goes wrong? It is one of the things that we are going to be looking at the State of the Nation this morning. Wilson Sosion, who is a former nominated MP, Daniel Orogo, who is a politics and governance expert, Wakili Peter Wasaga and Wakili George Kithi will be joining me in studio to expound or talk about the State of the Nation. Welcome once again. My name is Mike Megwe. Marie, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Mike, and you?
I am good.
Okay, so a very good morning from wherever you're joining us. Definitely, this is Good Morning Kenya. I'll bring you up to speed with what is happening as far as the news is concerned. By now, you know that there's a crisis in the DRC, and yesterday, Kenya's, embassy was attacked. And those are some of the stories that we'll bring you this morning, including the fact that the president also attended Energy Summit in Tanzania, where, there's a plan to connect over 300 million, African citizens to the grid. So I'll bring you details of that. And the EACC investigates theft of 100 billion shillings from government institutions. And just I've already alluded to 300 million people to be connected to the grid as leaders meet in Tanzania. And a 42-member anti-femicide task force is sworn in with the worrying statistics in the last 6 months. All that coming up in the news this morning, including business and sports. But I want to begin with the crisis in Goma, where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has protested the attack on Kenya's embassy in Kinshasa by demonstrators protesting the invasion of the city of Goma by M23 rebels. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi called for the respect of international law as diplomats enjoyed inviolable protection. The embassies of Rwanda, France, Belgium, and the United States were also attacked.
As the crisis in Goma, Eastern DRC continues to unfold, the Kenyan embassy staff in Kinshasa became victims of rioters' attacks by demonstrators who are accusing the international community of inaction. This has prompted a protest note by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that called on the Kinshasa regime to ensure the upholding of international law and guarantee the security of the foreign missions and their staff. Musalia Mudavadi says he has secured the assurance of his counterpart, Therese Kaikwamba Wagner, who promised to assess and compensate damages inflicted on the embassy. The protesters also descended on the Rwanda, France, Belgium, and the United States embassy. Meanwhile, Goma remains the scene of active gunfights, with hospitals now overwhelmed with injured persons seeking treatment. Hundreds of fatalities have been reported in the ongoing confrontation between the Congolese army and the M23 rebels. Thousands of people have been fleeing multiple active conflict zones. President William Ruto will on Wednesday convene an emergency meeting of the East Africa Region Heads of State Summit meant to discuss the situation in Eastern DRC.
Of course, we'll be following that story for you in the sense that the president will be holding an EAC summit where, that particular crisis will be on the table. We also expect the Rwandan president and, DRC's President Tshisekedi to be part and parcel of those talks. So moving on, President William Ruto Tuesday attended the African Heads of State in Energy Summit in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, for the launch of an ambitious initiative aimed at connecting 300 million people in the continent to electricity in the next 5 years. The meeting aimed at accelerating Africa's electrification also brought together players in the energy sector and philanthropists.
President William Ruto on Tuesday left for Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, to attend the African Heads of State Energy Summit. The summit aimed at launching Mission 300, an initiative seeking to deliver affordable and sustainable power to more than half of the 600 million people in the continent currently without electricity by the year 2030. Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who was the host, said the initiative is about empowering families, lifting millions out of poverty, providing hope and opportunities for the youth.
It is about our commitment to economic transformation, fostering industries, creating jobs and sparking innovation across Africa. And it is about realizing the promise of uplifting every African community.
Key partners in the new electrification drive include the World Bank Group, the African Development Bank Group, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the African Union.
Over the next decade, 360 million young people in Africa will be ready to enter the workforce. That same decade, the African system is expected to only offer jobs to 150 million of these, leaving 3 out of every 5 young people without the opportunity of a job, which gives you not just earning, but dignity.
The African Development Bank's $20 billion Desert to Power program will complement Mission 300 and develop 10,000 megawatts of solar power across 11 Sahelian countries and provide access to electricity for an additional 250 million people. Therefore, the Mission 300 and the Desert to Power working collectively will provide 550 million Africans with electricity.
The summit culminated in the heads of state and governments present signing the Dar es Salaam Energy Declaration. On the sidelines of the summit, President Ruto held talks with UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohamed and discussed de-escalating the raging conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo.
Give us some minor reporting there. At the same time, Kenya's candidate for the African Union chair position, Raila Odinga, attended the Africa Head of State Energy Summit in Dar es Salaam, where he lobbied for support for his candidacy. Odinga on Tuesday met attending heads of states and government as his campaign for the position hits fever pitch.
Ahead of the African Union elections in 2 weeks' time, Kenya's candidate for the African Union Commission chairperson Raila Odinga intensified his campaign in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. During the summit, which brings together African leaders across the continent, focusing on advancing sustainable energy solutions for Africa, Odinga lobbied for support from African head of state and government attending the meeting. On Tuesday, he met Zambia's Hakainde Hichilema, Malawi's Lazarus Chakwera, Botswana's Gideon Boko, Burundi's Evariste Ndayishimiye, among others, in a bid to consolidate his support base in the continent. Though he was missing in the meeting chaired by President William Ruto on Monday, bringing together 5 heads of state to discuss African Union reform, President Ruto is said to have sought the support of visiting leaders. Raila will face off Madagascar's Foreign Affairs Minister Richard Mandria Mandrato and Djibouti's Foreign Affairs Minister Mohamed Ali Yusuf. His campaign emphasizes on the importance of Pan-African unity, economic integration, and addressing energy challenges.
Thank you, Gladys Mungai. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is actively investigating corruption cases amounting to over 100 billion shillings in government institutions and county governments. In a report for the financial year 2023-2024, the commission indicates it received 5,171 reports, out of which 534 cases are under review, with 25 classified as high-impact cases. The report also indicates that 25 former and current governors are on the Commission's radar.
The voluminous report from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has exposed rot within the 2 levels of government, with bribery topping the index.
The forms of corruption, you can note from the graph that bribery still stands as the most prevalent form of corruption.
The anti-graft body has adversely mentioned 9 institutions whose systems it claims are prone to misuse. During the launch of the financial statement for the year 2023-2024, EACC CEO Abdi Mohamud confirmed that sleuths have been dispatched to the Kenya Revenue Authority, Port Health Services at the JKIA, National Police Service, Ministry of Land Registries, Kericho Referral Hospital, NTSA, Kenhawe Bridges, and Nairobi City County Government, where integrity tests will be conducted on their systems.
Even if those institutions they always talk whenever we do the surveys in the corruption perception survey, we will not give up. It is our job to ensure that we keep on pushing together with the management of those institutions so that we reduce the levels of corruption in those institutions.
As per the document, the Commission received 5,171 reports and picked 534 cases for investigations, classifying 25 as of high impact in nature. Topping the list is the misappropriation of 26.5 billion shillings at Tana Athi Water Works Development Agency in the award of tenders for Ruiru 2 Water Project, Karimenu Water Project and Kituima 2 Water Project. Second on the list is the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation KBC that is being investigated over allegations of a 19.2 billion shilling irregular engagement in the financial year of 2005-2006 and termination of a joint venture between KBC and Channel 2 Group Corporation in 2009 that led to the arbitral claim of $150 million in the year 2012. Closing off the top 3 is the Kenya Railways 8 billion shilling staff retirement benefit scheme, which sleuths are investigating allegations of irregular disposal of land measuring 139 acres in Makongeni, Nairobi County by the Chief Executive Officer in the year 2021-2022 and 2022-2023. The 212-page report also indicates that EACC is on the trail of 25 former and sitting governors over allegations of bribery, economic crimes and unethical conduct. In the devolved units, the county government of Kajiado is being investigated for the loss of 2.3 billion shillings of tenders awarded to various companies associated with top officials from the devolved unit. Nairobi City County Government is second with misappropriation of 93.4 million shillings of public coffers for irregular payments to 13 companies for non-delivery of goods or services during the financial year 2022-2023.
We have observed an emerging trend and pattern where public officials are enrolling the members of their families, their children, their wives, their husbands, their relatives, to be their proxies in stealing from the public.
During the period under review, the Commission forwarded 126 investigation files on corruption, economic crimes and unethical conduct to the Director of Public Prosecutions, or DPP, recommending prosecution of suspects, out of which 104 were recommended for prosecution, 8 for administrative action and 14 for closure due to decision delay. The anti-graft body has further recovered corruptly acquired assets and unexplained wealth held by public officers worth over 2.9 billion shillings. The Commission also filed 47 new civil suits to recover assets estimated at 9.2 billion shillings.
Morality and ethics in society refuse to be silenced by receiving proceeds of corruption as donations to your religious institutions and programs, projects. And when we receive some of these donations and contributions, we need to find out how it was all acquired.
Health, where Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barasa now says the Ministry of Health is thoroughly scrutinizing areas that might be affected by the recent executive order signed by the U.S. President Donald Trump for appropriate interventions. According to Barasa, the move by Trump to review U.S. policy on global health is a wake-up call for African countries to embrace local solutions. Some of the areas affected by Trump's executive order include AIDS relief and TB funding.
Speaking during the East Africa Region Global Health Security Summit, the Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barasa reiterated that the COVID-19 pandemic served as an eye-opener to African countries on the need to upscale the healthcare systems.
This summit is a call to action. It is a call to move forward and translate our commitments into tangible results. Let us embrace the spirit of partnership and solidarity as we work towards a common goal, a region that is better prepared, more resilient, and capable of withstanding future health challenges.
Participants noted the need to seal the gaps in the healthcare sector, which includes trained human resource, need to purchase modern equipment and infrastructure.
It's also an opportunity to begin to look at the workforce, where we have critical gap. As we are all aware, there is no health without workforce. So hence the need for us to really use this opportunity to revisit that agenda of strengthening the health workforce as far as the East Africa region is concerned.
We all know the environment we are in, the context we are in, so it's critical to strategically think about ways of mobilizing resources, securing resources, to make sure that our health challenges are addressed.
We have equipped over 110,000 workers with devices that have been manufactured in Kenya. That also represents another critical pillar: local manufacturing, local jobs, and also affordable devices that can be put in the hands of health workers to allow them to provide healthcare universally across the country seamlessly.
We need to have resilient systems. This includes having universal health coverage that is affordable, accessible, quality care to all, as well as having components of health security strengthened.
The CS at the same time said Kenya was perusing to identify areas that might have been affected by the recent executive order signed by the USA President for appropriate interventions.
As the Ministry of Health, I have tasked the various state departments, the various programs and directors that have been involved or that will be affected by this, so that we can be able to map out and look at the impact in matters matters finances, in matters human resource, etc. And with this, we'll come up with a concrete way forward in terms of interventions, of which we'll be able to share with the Cabinet, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, and see how we can move forward in matters intervention.
Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary, that is William Kabogo, says the government has no plans to switch off social media. Kabogo, who was in Eldoret, said even though the government emphasizes free speech, there should be some sense of responsibility by social media users.
Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary William Kabogo was in Eldoret City for the annual Data Privacy Conference. The CS maintaining that the government does not intend to interfere with social media.
Many have been told Kabogo says he'll interfere with social media. I have no business interfering with social media. Hiyo ni zile propaganda tu za wale watu hawana kazi ya kufanya.
Despite citizens enjoying freedom of expression, Kabogo called for responsible use of the various platforms.
Unajua mimi ukinibandika kwa jeneza saa hii na hii kipara yangu, I don't care. Let's just be honest. You'll be wasting time. And remember, you have the right to express yourself. It's enshrined in our Constitution. But your right stops where the right of the other person starts.
He urged social media users to use the platform to engage in constructive criticism.
Let us create the discussion online. I will open the portals of our ministries so you engage government directly.
He said that his main objective is to deliver on his mandate.
Mimi niko na kazi nimepatiwa ya kufanya na ni kuweza kueneza internet kila mahali Kenya na iweze kupatikana kwa njia ya rahisi. Hata sokoni, hata kwa bus stop. The president says, Kabogo, go and get Kenya connected, and that's the job I will do, and I will do it properly.
On politics, the CS downplayed claims of division in the Mount Kenya region.
Mlima haina shida. Mimi nitaenda mlimani baadaye na nitatumana salamu za Mheshimiwa Rais na zitapokewa. Haiwezekani kamwe wewe ukue jikoni mahali kunapikwa, alafu ukishafurushwa umetoka nje ya jikoni unaanza kusema unajua bwana alikuwa anapika sumu ananipatia niwapatie.
Now, 100 women have been killed in the last 6 months in reported incidents of femicide. In shocking statistics of the reality of femicide, 15 out of the 100 have been killed in the month of January 2025. Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo has called for multi-stakeholders interventions to safeguard the safety and welfare of women in the country. He spoke during the swearing-in ceremony of 42-member task force appointed by President William Ruto to provide institutional, legal and policy framework to curb the menace.
In what illustrates the Herculean task confronting the Nancy Baraza-led 42-member task force, the Interior Ministry says 100 women have been killed in the last 6 months.
For the last 6 months, the country has recorded more than 100 cases of femicide.
And in the month of January, 15 young women have been reported dead, some in incidents of love turned sour.
And sadly, this month alone, 15 women and girls have lost their lives through GBV.
Separate statistics from the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights show that 97 cases of femicide were reported from August to November 2024.
Those who commit these heinous crimes impact on our society directly, since the victims are our mothers, daughters, sisters, and nieces. Femicide in Kenya must end.
The task force was sworn in on Tuesday. Marking the beginning of the daunting task of not only identifying solutions to the worrying trend, but also formulating a legal and policy framework to guide government's intervention and the quickening of prosecutions of perpetrators.
We pledge to execute our mandate with precision,
and professionalism to provide the country with proposals that will offer a lasting solution to the issue of gender-based violence, including femicide.
Former Deputy Chief Justice Nancy Baraza, who will chair the task force, called for collaborative efforts by stakeholders.
We urge all Kenyans to come forward and share their expertise and insights. Only by working together can we create a safe society for boys and girls, men and women.
Any country that a child or woman cannot walk around freely is not a free country yet.
Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo also calling for a holistic and balanced approach in tackling GBV by delving into underlying social and cultural issues.
There are existing gaps in the prevention, response, investigations, prosecution, data management, as well as survivor support systems in GBV and femicide cases.
The task force is domiciled under the Office of Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and will submit its report in 90 days.
We look at business now. Part of the levy reintroduced on key cash crops will be used to support the fertilizer subsidy program to make it sustainable and extend its coverage to more small-scale farmers. Here is Benson Rioba with the details.
The fertilizer subsidy was allocated 10 billion shillings in the current financial year. Players in the agriculture sector say the amount is not sufficient, hence the need to raise additional funds to support the fertilizer subsidy program kitty. This could be through levies to some key crops.
Or a tax, where else to tax for the benefit of our farmers. I know we have got different commodities like sugar, like coffee, like tea, which sometimes we had proposed that let there be a small levy from these particular crops so that it's able to be plowed back into the input for it.
They are calling for a review of some taxes on companies handling fertilizer to reduce the cost of production.
There is some research that shows that agriculture withholding taxes and maybe also levies certainly have a negative impact on farmers in the short run.
They also want farmers to adopt sustainable and modern farming technologies that involve use of organic fertilizer, economic land use, intercropping and lime use.
I think one of the ways to ensure that we move forward with fertilizer is to ensure that we have all our soils tested so that we optimize on the requirements as opposed to putting a blanket recommendations.
A look at sports now, where reigning champions Kenya Pipeline are set to defend their title at this year's CAVB Zone 5 Club Championship, scheduled to take place from the 26th of February to the 4th of March at the Lugogo Indoor Stadium in Kampala, Uganda. Kenya Pipeline are the sole representatives from Kenya in the competition, which will feature 14 teams, 7 men's teams and 7 women's teams. Host Uganda will field 8 teams, having secured the rights to host the event through a formal bidding process by edging out Rwanda. This will be the first regional tournament since Uganda's Sadiq Nasiru assumed leadership of the regional body following the 2024 CAVB Congress in Morocco, where he succeeded Rwanda's Ferdinand Ruterana. That's where we end the bulletin this morning. As always, thank you so much for your company. My name is Marie Yambo. My colleague Mike Megwe is on standby, and he'll be taking you through the rest of Good Morning Kenya on The Viewpoint.